If you want to make Mitred Corner napkins out of all your scrap fabrics, impress everybody with your perfect mitred corners. Can you see that just there? You are in the right place. I'm going to show you exactly how to make these in this tutorial. I'm Kim. This is Quilt with Kim. You're very welcome. Let's get stitching. What you need for your napkins then is 1 fat quarter per napkin. So I've got 3 fat quarters here. That will make me 3 napkins. Now, at the time of recording this and publishing this, Christmas is just around the corner, quite scarily so. So you could use all those Christmas fat quarters that you've picked up from somewhere. But let's face it, all of us have fat quarters in our stash that we're probably never going to use in a quilt. So this is a great use of those fat quarters. Turn them into napkins. Or you can get a whole table's worth of dressing looking beautiful with your matching napkins to your matching table runner and matching table mats and whatever else you've got going on. So any time of year, these are great for. So what you're going to need is get your fat quarter and give that a good press first. So do that and then let's meet in the next section and we'll get that cut out. Having given your fat quarter a good press, you're then going to cut it into an 18-inch square. I would recommend using your cutting mat, the measuring lines on your cutting mat to do that. Now, normally I wouldn't advocate using your cutting mat for measurements, but this is so big as a measurement that your cutting mat will be fine. So use the lines on your cutting mat to cut into a nice, neat 18-inch square. Now, with these napkins, they will end up 2 inches smaller than your cut size. So if you'd like some smaller ones, just add 2 inches onto it, cut that out and you'll see what happens next. I have experimented with different sizes and the small ones are a bit like those kind of ladies' afternoon tea napkins, teeny tiny napkins that you might have with maybe a mince pie at Christmas. Probably not useful for an everyday dinner or a proper sit down meal. So I would probably go to the bigger cut size to get started with. Okay, so get your square cut out using your ruler and your rotary cutter and your cutting mat for the measurement. Get that to 18 inches and then I'll meet you in the next section and I'll show you what to do next. So having cut this out, make sure it's all flat. We're now going to get over to our ironing board and we're going to press up the edges by 1 inch. So if you've got a measuring gauge or a ruler, use one of those, or you can just judge it if you're good at doing that. But we're going to fold up by 1 inch. Okay, so just like that. And then we're going to give that a press all the way around. So we'll end up with 1 inch folded down all the way around, and just at the corners all you're doing for now is just lapping them over just like that. And if you wondered why there was a bit of a stop and a jump in the middle, it's because I snuck off to use my ironing board because it's a lot easier doing it on my ironing board than my little temporary mat here. Don't tell anybody, that's our secret. So next job is, having done that, we're going to open it all back up again. And you're going to do nearly the same thing. No measurements required on this one. And just fold in a little bit. Okay, so it's about, I don't know, nearly up to the inch line, not very far. It's somewhere between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch. You don't need to be too exact. It's so that the raw edge is hidden inside the fold. So I'm going to do exactly the same with that. And I am going to go all the way around. Okay, so you'll end up with 2 fold lines. You've got your initial inch line. We've got the inch, the sort of 1/2 inch line that we've just done to hide that raw edge. So you've got a bit of a, cross hatch of press lines going on. So let's find out what we need to do with those to turn them into your mitred corner. Here we are then. So there's all our folds in place. Now we need to open up all these folds. Don't worry, it'll all fall back again. Turn this whole piece over so the wrong side is facing down, and we're going to deal with one corner at a time. So let's just make sure that those folds are open for the moment. And then what you're going to do, put this on a diagonal, like it's a diamond shape. That'll just help you for this bit. And I do like folding back up again, those folds. And we're going to just hold a corner down and fold it up diagonally. So you've got to fold across the diagonal of your napkin in waiting. There we go, up there. And then we're going to match up these raw edges at the top. You want to make sure that you've got a nice crisp corner there, and make sure that all your raw edges, you cannot say raw edges in one word because it comes out as wedges, as I've just discovered. So get your raw edges all nicely lined up at the top. Okay, it's just the corner we're dealing with. So if it's all not quite together there, don't worry too much, it's this corner. But I want to make sure that there's a nice sharp corner there and my raw edges are matched up here. So if you do that, and then I'll show you what to do in the next section. But grab your quilting ruler because you'll need that next. So quick housekeeping notice before we start. What I have done is marked my fold line, my 1-inch fold line, with a pen. I don't want you to do that at all. I've just done that so that you can see where I'm lining my ruler up to, but you will be able to see your fold line quite successfully without cameras in the way. So you want to look for your 1-inch fold line, and we're going to line our ruler up against that. But before we do, here's my little top tip. Get this fold and fold it down. Remember, this was our raw edge fold, whether you've done a 1/4 or just under 1/2 inch, we want to fold that down. Okay, make sure that those edges are still nicely lining up. Okay, so you want to be able to see that 1-inch fold line and have those folds down. Now what you're going to do is, on your ruler, you're going to find that 45-degree angle that you've got on your ruler, which you may not have discovered before or used before, but now you're going to give that a whirl. So find that 45-degree angle there and put that line on your 1-inch fold line. Okay, if I just open that up for a second, just so you can see what I'm doing. So can you see I'm lining that 45-degree line up against my 1-inch fold line? And what I'm going to do is just slide it along until the straight line, the horizontal line here, lines up with the fold of my fabric. So what I end up with is a nice sharp point. So what I'll have is the 45-degree angle on my ruler. That line is lining up on my 1-inch fold. It's going to the fold on the edge there, and then the straight line of my ruler, the horizontal line, is going across the fold. That's what you're aiming for, so a nice sharp point there. What I'm going to do though is do that with the fold in place, and you'll see why in a moment. So let's get that lined up again. Okay, so having lined that up, I'm then going to draw a line down the edge of my ruler on top of that fold, just down there, so it makes a point down at the bottom here. So here's my fold line, and here's the line that I've just drawn. Okay, so can you see that? Now the reason for doing that is we need to stitch this down, and if I had drawn that line here, so let's just do that to show you, just in case you were wondering why. If I draw that line on the wrong side of the fabric, which seems a good thing to do, if I fold it down, that line would disappear. So I do the fold first and then draw the line on top. Okay, so if you do that, and then I'll meet you over at our sewing machines, which you need all threaded up, ready to go. So I'll see you over there. Next, we need to stitch across this line that we've just drawn. So I'm going to start with just a little thread saver or thread catcher, and that's just a scrap of fabric. That's all you need to do, and start stitching on it. And we use it when we've got little places like this to stitch, because it makes it far easier to make sure that we've stitched all the way across a small area. It's difficult for your machine to hold on to something when it's such a small area to stitch in. So I've got my needle set in the central position, so pop your open toe foot on. That's a lot easier to stitch with, but if you've got a standard foot, that's fine too. You just need your needle in the central position. So all we are going to do is stitch along here, and then I'm lining this line up in a straight line, so your napkin would be at an angle, and as I stitch, okay, let's just lift up my foot, ready to go. We want the thread saver out of the way, and then we're just going to carry on across a little gap and stitch right across that line. Okay. And then all you'd need to do is snip that off. My scissors have all disappeared. Like that. Okay, so there's that corner done there. Now the next bit we're going to do is about a eighth quarter of an inch away. We're going to snip off that edge, which is a bit scary to do, but that's what you need to do on that bit. Okay, so if you do that to all 4 corners, and then I'll show you what to do next. So we've done all 4 corners, we've snipped them off, and here's where the magic happens. Oh, by the way, I've got a little secret to tell you, so hold out to the end and I will tell you that secret. So we get our corners and we flip them through. Okay, can you see you've now got a nice mitered corner? Don't worry about the thread, we can trim all that off afterwards. And you want to do that to all of your 4 corners. And you need to get your machine threaded up with your zipper foot on, and you want your needle over to the left hand side, and I would push your needle over as far as you can. Use your stitch width button to push your needle over as far as you can, and then we'll find out where to put it in just a second. So let's just pause the camera for one moment while I push all my corners out. So having pushed out my 4 corners as my camera was paused, the other thing that you can do when you push out your 4 corners, get a little pokey stick into the corner to really push those corners out. The tighter the corners are, the better the miter is. You also want to give it a quick press all the way around, because that'll help you with this stitching bit. So what we're simply going to do now is top stitch it all the way around. And the reason why I like using a zipper foot for my top stitching is because I can get my needle really close to the edge here. So I'm stitching from the wrong side so that I can see where I am stitching. What I've got is this inside fold running against the left hand side of my foot there. And now I can experiment with where my needle is going to be. So if I adjust my stitch width, I can move my needle over to the right and left. And if I gently lower my hand wheel without letting my needle go into the fabric, I can then see how far away my needle is from the edge that I want to stitch. And if I think it's too close, then I can adjust the needle. So I've got my needle at 1 millimeter on my stitch width. So that's about 1 millimeter away from the edge there, which is what I want to do. I am not lock stitching this because I don't want any birds nesting on the underneath of this, which is the right hand side of our napkin. So I want to start by putting the needle in. And I'm going to increase my stitch length probably to 3 so it shows up a bit better. And then we're going to fire off. And what I'm going to do is keep this fold against the left-hand side of my zipper foot. In fact, it's a bit of a tip as well. Whenever you're using a zipper foot, use your hand wheel to gently lower your needle before you start stitching, just in case your needle is in the wrong position and you go crashing into the center of your zipper foot here. So I'm just going to show you up to this first corner, because what I want to do is come up to the corner. As I come up, what I'm going to do with my fingernail as well is just pull on this corner, because I want it nice and tight, and I need to somehow finish with the needle actually in that diagonal there into the seam. Once I've done that, lift up my foot, turn it around, and we should all be lined up to come down the edge here. Okay, and I'm going to do that all the way around, so I'll do that and I'll meet you on the other side. Okay, and as we're coming up to where we started, I am simply going to stitch over that line, and that stops any of that bird's nesting effect going on, but it still locks your stitch line in place. And I'll just finish with a couple of back stitches. So let's take that out of the machine and show you what to do as your very final job. Okay, to finish then, snip any of your loose threads off. We don't want those. And then what I would do is give that a good press all over. That sets your seams and makes them all crisp. So setting the seam means it gets your thread, your stitch line to sink into the fabric, and makes it all crisp and, well, crisp and even really. So it gets it all crisp all the way around. If you have gone a bit wobbly on the corners where you've been matching up and perhaps you've missed it a little bit, honestly, don't worry, because when you're this side, you don't notice, and when you've used the napkin a few times, you won't notice either. So give that a good press, and then that is good to go as your napkin and will look beautiful on your table. Now, I promised you a secret, didn't I? This is a bit name dropping, but I made about 25 or 30 napkins for a special event for the royal family. That's the British royal family, using exactly this technique because they wanted beautiful mitered corners. And this is the technique that I used for them, and this is the technique that I have taught you. So there's a little bit of a link there to royalty. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for the rest of us too. So I'm going to leave you there. I hope you enjoy making those, and your dinner tables look amazing with your own homemade mitered corner napkins. Have fun making them, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.